Welcome to JW World News. My name is Vern, and today we will be talking about why did the Mormons donate $44 million to world hunger and the Catholic Church? Good question. Where is this article from? This article is from the Salt Lake Tribune, and it says it's in one of its largest ever donations, the LDS Church. Now, we call them Mormons. That's kind of not the right term, but we all know them for that. That's where this church came from, was the Fundamental Mormons. That's another group, actually. So the LDS is the Latter-day Saints Church. They give an additional $44 million to help fight world hunger. So this will be an interesting article. Now, just before we go there, we want to thank our researcher for this. Excuse me there. And the researcher on this topic is my good wife. So my good wife, I like to the people that give me the information for my show, I usually show who they are. And in this case, my good wife was doing a lot of research, and she found this article. And this is her website. She does all of this, gonewiththegrid.ca. And it shows a little bit about what we do and who we are. It has different things. And I want to show you something on here. I'm going to put it on the big screen because it's kind of cool. This, I'm going to just scroll up here so you can see this. I'm going to disappear here. So you see that right here? Mama is Millie Fleur and Bantam Cochin Cross. So she had two little chickies, and this morning we got up and there's five. Like, she's just a wonderful mother. This is her second hatch this year. So these two little chickies here grew up, but she's on her second hatch. And anyways, my good wife shares all of that on this website. So you might enjoy going there, and she does a lot of work. There's a Fixing My Faith section there, and she does a lot of work for us on the channel. So thanks again to my good wife out there. Thank you, honey. There, I said it. So we're going to move on in the program here, and we're going to go over to the Salt Lake Tribune, and we're going to find out, see if we can find an answer to this question. Why did the Mormons donate $44 million to world hunger and the Catholic Church? Like the weird thing here is the Catholic Church. Now, another question that comes to my mind when I look at this headline is, why the big deal? Why are they making these big, huge things? You know, last week I was reading an article on this channel about how the Mormons were involved, members now. The church paid $1 million to get out of the lawsuit right at the beginning. But the lawsuit settled for $1.2 billion, and it was a CSA cover-up within the Mormon church, the LDS church. Let's be fair here. The LDS Church. We should probably use her right name. I still call them Mormons. You probably know them as Mormons. We're going to read this article and see if we can dig some answers up. I'm going to put myself back on the screen here. And so it says, and it's a good article. Like, if you're, you know, when we think of all the people hungry in the world and that. Now, stick with the channel. We're going to look at charity intelligence of the Mormons, the Catholics, and the Jehovah's Witnesses. We're gonna look at their report cards, their charity intelligent report cards here in Canada, and it's pretty accurate. And I would guess to bet that what's mirrored here in Canada is probably a good idea what's happening in many parts of the world with these organizations. So the three that we talk about a lot on this channel because of CSA cover-ups is the Jehovah's Witnesses, number one. They're in the biggest headlines right now. The Mormons are hitting them, but the Catholics are huge. They've been huge for a lot of years, and the Pope came up and apologized and did different things. Now, what's interesting is the Jehovah's Witnesses have not apologized, and they've been asked to apologize in the Netherlands, or in New Zealand, in Australia, and now in New Zealand, and they're not. They're saying, we want no part of it. That's what they're saying. So it's interesting to see where that whole thing is going, because they're on the headlines now all over Australasia, and it's not good. So are the Mormons, are the LDS trying to do this to get out of the limelight? You know, they mirror Jehovah's Witnesses. They have 9 governing bodies. Jehovah's Witnesses have 9 members on the governing body. It's a mirror. We showed that in our last program. Now, are they trying to separate themselves from the Jehovah's Witnesses? Because we all know the Jehovah's Witnesses do not donate to help world food hunger. In fact, at the very end of this program, I'm going to show you where Jehovah's Witnesses go when they need, when they're hungry, when they're out of work, when there's a disaster, when they need help. We're going to show you where they go, where they're told to go by the organization. Now, let's talk about the Mormons here for a bit. And it says here, given its dedication to helping alleviate global hunger, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has given one of its largest donations ever, $44 million, to support the wide range of relief by a variety of nonprofit organizations around the world. So it goes on to say, no humanitarian effort is more foundational to Christ's church than feeding the hungry. That's what the Mormon guy says. And he says, we are grateful to have the means to collaborate with wonderful organizations and provide relief to children and young mothers in dire need. As we serve together, we extend the reach of Christ's loving arms. So the money will be distributed to Care International, Catholic Relief Services, Helen Keller, and the Hunger Project, and several other organizations. So they named the Catholic Relief Services and Care International. So we'll take a look at the Catholic's report card here in Canada, and we'll see how good they are at distributing food. Now, we are immensely grateful, CARE USA President and CEO Michelle Nunn said in the release. They're saying funding from the Church of the LDS allows us to scale up our work in countries like Ethiopia and improve the well-being of thousands of more of their families. So here's what I think. Either like the Mormons do not want anything to do with this CSA stuff. And we did the report on what happened in California. Right at the very beginning, they paid out $1 million. They said, we had nothing to do with this. This is this guy. This is our members. Us as a church, we do not endorse that. And that's kind of what the Watchtower is saying, but the Watchtower does actually dictate to every congregation the 2-witness rule, and they told them to shred records, and there's a whole bunch of obstruction of justice that Watchtower headquarters has done over the years, and that's still yet being exposed, and we're following all those cases. But here, the Mormons, they're right out the gate, they're giving $1 million out. We want nothing to do with it, but here's $1 million, so they gave that to the victim separately. Didn't even go to court. It was just given out right away, and basically it financed the victims to sue the perpetrators. And it settled for $1.2 billion. So I'm assuming there's some very rich people in the Mormon church. So the jury took everything from them and more. The article said they probably won't collect it all. So anyways, this is what's happening. The Mormons want nothing to do with it. In fact, the Mormons say, we're not going to empty our suitcase into CSA lawyer cases. We're going to dump the money into the food bank. We're going to change the image for us anyways on the planet. We do not want the world focusing on us as CSA like the Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, Catholics, what's surprising here with the Catholics, and they're in bed together with the Catholics. The Catholics are heavily 2 dioceses went bankrupt. So the Catholics are heavily involved into CSA cover-ups, and they have been for years. Not the Catholics, the priests, and that's where it stems from, the hierarchy. So the 2 dioceses went bankrupt because of that. Why are the Mormons shaking hands with the Catholics, working with the Catholics? Why wouldn't they just give all of their money, to the food banks and things like that? It's a good question. So obviously these religions work together. Now we've seen this in some of our other articles where the Jehovah's Witnesses and the Catholics also work together. So it's like these two religions are kind of hanging off the Catholics. Now the Jehovah's Witnesses, the reason we know they're working with the Catholics is Matt Haverstick, and you can research this. It's on many of my other videos. In fact, I had his voice on there, and he said himself that he is the lawyer for Jehovah's Witnesses in the state of Pennsylvania. And Brumley, the Jehovah's Witness lawyer in Montana, just got sued, or he had to settle or pay a fine for lying in court, saying that the Watchtower has nothing to do with what happens in these congregations. So he got caught and he got charged $150,000. He's not credible. Who would look at him as a credible lawyer? So the Watchtower hired Matt Haverstick, the Catholic diocese lawyer. And Matt Haverstick said these religions have to apologize. But the Jehovah's Witnesses won't apologize. They're not apologizing in Australia. With the apologies in Netherlands, they're saying we want no part of it. We don't care for children. We don't look after children. So now we have an organization that does not help orphans and widows. And they're saying we don't help children. We don't help people. That's not who we are. We're a printing company. But yet they have all their hands out for the charity money. But the Mormons are not giving the Jehovah's Witnesses any money. They're giving the Catholics the money. So the Jehovah's Witnesses are using the Catholic's lawyer. It's really, really uncanny what's happening here. I thought these religions didn't really work together, but they do. They're all in bed together. They're fighting the same laws. They're fighting to cover up CSA. They're all in bed together. They're all doing it. But the LDS, they don't want to be part of the news of it. So here they are. They're helping the well-being of thousands of more children and their families impacted by food insecurity. And so they should be. All of these religions should be emptying their purses all over the earth every year. Like, rather than accumulating every year, empty your purses. Sure, save a little bit up for disasters here and there. But if I'm donating, I want to know my donated dollar goes to help someone that year, not 50 years later and in some gold bank or something in the Vatican. That's not what we want as people. And that's why we as a common person, we're outside of religion. We're looking at all these religions, and we don't count them as good charities. And I'm going to prove this in a few minutes after we finish this article. But it says the Utah faith-based latest contribution comes from last year's donations to the World Food Program, $32 million, and to UNICEF, No Time to Waste initiative, $5 million. And I think that's excellent. I think the religions all should be donating to help the world food banks. I think that's great. Let's carry on here. Responding to the growing level of child malnutrition is a key humanitarian priority for the church, says some Mormon guy. He says our collaboration with the organization helps provide relief to vulnerable children. See, now they got the children there. They're protecting children, helping them, and mothers. So orphans and widows kind of a thing. That's what they want to live up to. And because they want to keep being charities or reputable charities. Everyone wants to be a reputable charity, right? So because they want people to keep giving to them. So they talk about the joint efforts helping 2 million lives in 30 countries. And I think this is good news. This is what has to happen with these churches. They have to empty their purses. It says the church's partnership with these international organizations is part of an ongoing effort to help solve malnutrition. And I believe a lot of that. And I believe that there's a lot of Catholics doing a lot of this. But the one thing I do know is there's no Jehovah's Witnesses doing this. I do know that. Now, they just print literature. Now we're going to look at charity intelligence, and I wanted to look at the Catholics for Canada here. And they're not, I'm going to pull myself off the screen here, but they're not getting a real high stars. They got Toronto, 2 stars. We can go into them, and I'll show you that in a second, what that is. Catholic Calgary one has 4 stars. That one's not doing bad. Here's one with 1 star. 4 stars, 3 stars. Here's one with no stars. and this is in Quebec or Montreal. There's no stars there. Shared Life, 2 stars. Toronto Mission Catholic, 1 star. So for me, I want to know where my dollar's going and how much of my dollar is actually going to help the charity. And that's what these stars, it's a really quick way of telling. So let's carry on. Church of Latter-day Saints, I went into them. And here's what the report cards look like from Charity Canada. Well, if you look at that, and if you're, if you remember when we were in grade school, this is like a report card. X, when you get a D plus, that's not a good grade. No reporting, demonstrated impact. There's no reporting. And need for funding, they don't have it. They're in the red. And how much cents to the cause? 98 cents. So that means it's all going down to the Mormon headquarters. That's what the Jehovah's Witnesses are doing. And they have a bad scorecard. So about the church, it says that they're a 1-star charity in Canada. That's it. And it's not financially transparent, reports very little about its programs and as a result. And before you give and read Charity Intelligence report, read the report before you give. These guys are 1 star. Even though it looks like the LDS is doing a lot, and I guarantee you this is a mirror. And what they're doing is peanuts for what they're pulling in. They're a big organization. They pull in 10%. I almost got into the Mormon church when I first started. And I chose Jehovah's Witnesses because I wasn't going to feed a bishop that drives a Ferrari, lives in a mansion, and pick fruit at his house. That's not what I'm going to do, and that's how that church runs. So they run, it's all about money, that church. So they do have a pile of money, a crap load of money, but look at their scorecard. It's a crappy scorecard. We looked at the Catholics. I could pull you into these ones. It's the same thing. A 1-star development and peace. It looks like the Mormons. It's a bad scorecard. Now let's look at the Watchtower. The Watchtower scorecard, X and F. Like F is the lowest. At least the Mormons got a D plus. F, X's and F. For transparency, they're all X. They don't tell anybody. Demonstrated impact is low for the amount of money they deal with. And need for funding, they don't need any. They're in the red. They got lots of money. And they have sense to the cause. They're sending 99% of their money down to New York. The Mormons are only sending 98%, keeping 2%. So their operating costs are higher here in Canada. So overview, same as the Mormons. No, it's worse than the Mormons. Watchtower is a 0-star charity with low demonstrated impact. The charity does not have a website or reports very little about its $30 million in programs and their results. Like, what's that all about, eh? They're not transparent. So they're getting Fs. They score low. They're saying don't fund. Don't put your money into these. They're not going to help you. Now, I wanted to find out a little further, what about the food banks? The food banks, how do they rate? I'm going to pull myself off the screen here. Now, the food banks, they rate quite high. Quebec, the Quebec Food Bank is 4 stars, but the Catholic Church is 1 star or 2 star in Quebec, or 0 star. Let me go look at that. The Catholic Church in Quebec is 0 stars. Is that it? 0 stars. Yeah. Montreal, Quebec. 0. There's no stars. It's like the Jehovah's Witness. But over here, the food bank, it's called I don't know what that is. It's a mission. In Quebec, it's 4 stars. So you see where there's no stars in one charity, the other charity seems to pick up. So it's important to look at where your money is going, where you're at, and who you're helping. Now, when I look at the food bank, the Calgary Food Bank, and I live in Alberta, Calgary's in Alberta, and it's got 5 stars. So and there's another one, Canadian Food Grains Bank in Winnipeg, 5 stars. And here's another one, Daily Bread Food Bank, Toronto, Ontario. These are non-religious organizations, folks, 5 stars. Here's another one, Edmonton's Food Bank. I live in Edmonton here, 5 stars. Feed Nova Scotia, 5 stars. Feed Ontario, 5 stars. Where's the other 5 stars? Food Bank Quebec, 5 stars. Food for Life Canada, 5 stars. And Greater Vancouver Food Bank Society, 5 stars. All non-religious. all non-religious. Now, folks, you want to see what a 5-star report card looks like when it comes to charity for these groups. We'll look at Calgary Food Bank, Canada. It's going to be the same thing. Here's what it looks like. You got pluses. I'm going to come back on the screen here. I got pluses. I got A pluses. I got high, need for funding. They got lots of money, and 95 cents to the cause, right? And it's transparent, so we know this is real, and it's not fake. So that means they're using 5% for operating. About the Calgary Food Bank. Calgary Food Bank is a top-rated 5-star charity with high impact. The charity is one of our top Canadian food banks, and Calgary Food Bank has an A+ in the results of reporting, one of the best grades in its sector, and it has low overhead spending. Now, it goes on to talk about how it's arranged and how it started in 1982, and reports a whole bunch of stuff here. Now, it talks about the emergency food hampers, represents 83% of the program, and the food link makes up 5% of the program, and the food share is another 5% of the program. And the results of the impacts are very high. These guys are doing a pile of good. A total of $30 million went through here. And the saved money could help clients pay for rent, utilities, childcare, and other weekly expenses. So they're even going on to help people get back into the system, right? So now, here's the interesting thing. If you're a Jehovah's Witness living in Calgary and there was a natural disaster, the elders are sending you to the Calgary Food Bank. That's a fact. Check with your elder body. I know you're squirming on the couch. I was too. But that is exactly what's happening. So, if you want to donate to the food banks. The food banks are non-religious. There's no cover-ups. There's no legal fees with CSA cover-ups. There's no hierarchy. They're not cults. In fact, the food banks, if you feel you want to help people rather than going out with the door-to-door ministry and this printed literature knocks down our trees, which we have fewer and fewer of them. The Watchtower demands that we distribute their literature, and then the gas we put in our tank is just a waste. And people slam their doors. This is all a waste. So why not spend your time wisely like Jesus did? Jesus went down and helped people. So the way you can do it is go down to the food bank. It's non-religious. As a Jehovah's Witness, you can go down there because the society, the organization, JW.org, is sending you to the food banks to use them in time of need. So now you can go to the food bank. It's non-denominational. You see, the JW.org is not sending you to the Catholic mission, perhaps, but they're going to send you to the food bank because it's non-religious. That's what they're going to do. That's what they do. They send letters out. And the food banks, if you go down and donate your time at the food bank, it's like going door to door. You got a morning to spend, or you're pioneering. Go pioneer at the food bank and help people. And you can talk to people. You'll find all kinds of people down there that love talking about the Bible. But there now you're more like Jesus. You're helping people. You're feeding people. And therefore, if you're ever in a time of need, you now know all about the food bank because the Watchtower is sending you there. They're not a charity organization. They don't help people. And I believe that they will lose their charity status around the earth because they do not help people. And because of the shunning and the blood doctrine and a whole bunch of things that make this organization a cult. Let's be honest here. Let's not mince words. But anyways, folks, it's the food banks is where we want to donate our time. So that's all I have for you today on this article. And folks, well, until next time, keep living your day with love. Bye for now.